Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Todd and Shane's SharePoint podcast, or as we've been saying, it's a cloudy podcast, right? We talk about the cloud. It's not just SharePoint anymore. It's cloudy things, Azure, Office 365, all that. But this is podcast number 376, recorded live Wednesday, February 14th, 2018. I am your host, and I will absolutely be your Valentine, Todd Clint. And I will be your Valentine, Shane. I will be anybody's Valentine that will have me.
Well, so the good news is to commemorate the day, I jumped out our lovely little picture. So those of you that only listen, this is a great picture. This is Todd and I kissing, for lack of a better way of explaining it, at the SharePoint Conference back in, I don't even know what year that was, 2012 maybe?
Oh, I was thinking earlier than that, but who knows? Yeah.
Because there's a Rackspace guy behind us that we worked for at that point, so... So we worked there at that point.
Yeah, so probably 2012, yeah.
But yeah, so got that picture. You know, it's a great picture. I'm completely off topic already. Who thought?
Go run with it.
So, you know, I've got that. I don't know. I think when we had the office, someone made that for me. It's in a little heart-shaped frame. It's adorable. It's terrible. Whatever. My wife is disgusted by it. But I keep it down here on my desk because my wife never comes down here. But every now and then my cleaning lady finds it and will put it up and put it in the corner, like it's supposed to be there. And I'm like, she's never asked. I wonder if she thinks, Todd's my guy on the side. I don't know what goes through her mind when she puts this picture up, but she does.
Well, and let's be honest, if you had a guy on the side, you couldn't do better than me. I mean, that's I am the epitome. And I don't know if you have it framed, but there's also a picture of us eating a dessert with our arms intertwined. That was. I don't remember where that one showed up, but that was also another adorable one.
So that one's on Facebook somewhere, right? And that was us eating at the Cheesecake Factory in Seattle, downtown Seattle, right?
Downtown Seattle, absolutely, yep.
So anyway, this is our episode of Love. We're going to be positive. I'm not going to rant. I'm not going to get upset about anything. We're going to be happy thoughts for this whole episode. What is the odds I can do that?
Yeah, we'll see. We're 4 minutes in. But if you want to contact me about being your Valentine or about anything else, you can hit me up on Twitter at Todd Clint. You can email me, todd@toddclint.com. However, Instagram, Snapchat, I'm all over. I'm bad. I'm nationwide. You can get to me wherever. Shane, how can they get a hold of you?
So you can hit me up on Twitter at Shane's Cows. If you send me a Snapchat, I do not want any junk mail. And if you... And you
junk mail.
Exactly. Or you can always get me through Bold Zebras, shane.young@boldzebras.com, because that's where people reach out to me about my world famous YouTube channel where I do all things PowerShell, Power Apps, Azure, and occasionally make fun of Todd in secret ways. There's all types of Todd Easter eggs in my videos if you ever watch them.
Yeah, and let's be clear, folks, when he does that, he doesn't keep it secret because immediately, as soon as he publishes a video with something, he immediately points it out to me as quickly as he can because he's so gosh darn proud.
Well, because you don't watch my videos, so you're never going to see them if I don't.
No.
So I have to be like, look, Todd, look what's on the internet. Look what's on the internet.
Moving on to production notes. So I have good news for the last 7-8 years. I don't know. I've been promising to move my website and have been whining about that process. It is complete. As far as I know, 100% of my web properties, www.toddclint.com and media.toddclint.com, which is where all the podcast stuff comes out of, have all been moved to a new server. Waiting, going to probably let that run for a couple of weeks and then shut the old server down. But I think that's all there. So a couple of things that are nice now. Search works. So search didn't work for, a couple of years. Search works now. And so you can go to search for things. Shane and I have talked about that before. There's always articles that we got used to looking at, the loop back ones and all that. The other thing that I'm doing, at least for now, I'll probably forget, is I'm looking at failed search requests and putting in best bets and all that so I can see what people are looking for so I can put those in. A few of the short URLs have not made it over. I had a few hundred of those, and I wasn't sure how many of those I needed to move over. So a couple of people reached out on me on Facebook about links that didn't work, or not on Facebook, on Twitter. Absolutely do that, because I haven't decided if I'm going to import all those back in, but let me know if that didn't make it over. And then finally, everything should be SSL'd/TSL'd, TLS'd within an inch of its life. There should be no way to get content from my web server that's not encrypted anymore. Stacy's like, https.toddclint.com doesn't work. It should. I'll look into that. Thank you, though. And so everything should bounce you. If you have an HTTP link, it should bounce you to HTTPS. All of those kind of things should be in place. I looked over I posted that on Twitter. Somebody replied back with a URL, and I wish I had put it in the notes. That's one of the 7 or 8 things I wish I had put in the notes today. A website that will analyze your website and then tell you what the security issues are. So there's everything's SSL, but there's a couple of exploits apparently that I haven't locked IIS down for you, but I need to do. But other than that, should be all good to go. But let me know if it's not.
Well, that's pretty awesome stuff. Moving it over seems like months of planning with weeks of work. So you've earned your paycheck today, Todd Clint.
Yeah. So then the next thing is after I get everything moved over and know that it's good, then I'll look at upgrading it. So that's I wanted to get, because it was on 2010 on my other server. I put 2010 on this server just to get it onto the new environment. And it looks like we are at the tail end of that. So then the next step will be to upgrade it to something less sucky than SharePoint 2010.
That'll be a whole different can of worms. So, you should sell your services. I was on when we talk about letter D, those guys, I get a big warning. Don't go to this website. There's no SSL. So those guys need your help. So
I do sell my services, toddclint.com. But yeah, so that's one of those things. SSL is coming, and we shouldn't call it SSL anymore because I think it's TLS now. But that is becoming a big thing, and now browsers. So I think the next version of Chrome, if it's not out today, if you go to a site that's not SSL'd everywhere, it will yell at you and tell you your site's not secure.
That's what happened to me this morning when I went to that site.
Yeah. And it's funny because for some sites that makes perfect sense. Like I don't want to go to my bank site or any place where I got to put in a username and a password, but nobody logs into my site. So I had talked myself into not caring about it. But then as I was moving over, I'm like, I know that's the way to do it. I know that's the way I should go. So I just added it to the process. It's just going to be a thing. We've been preaching it for folks forever. And so now I'm practicing what I preached. So it wasn't that bad. The URL redirecting and all that's a little tricky. And I thought I had it all, and then Stacy showed me one that I don't have today, so I need to look at that one. But it's, and I think my website's faster. I don't know that. There's a lot of things that work into that, but that's one of the reasons people talk themselves out of it. Encryption is it's going to slow things down. Not been my experience.
Yeah, well, in encryption, in reality, the overhead it adds is a poof in the wind. So.
Yeah. And the other thing is we have moved to Wednesday mornings officially for good, as far as we know for now. So if you want to catch the show live, it is Wednesday mornings at 10 Central, 11 Eastern. It's on YouTube. So you can go to youtube.com/ToddClintNetcast. We have the live chat room on Slack. You can go to toddclint.com/Slack invite. And we will get you into there because Slack is invite only. So we would just open it up if we can't. But we've got a hearty group of hooligans in the chat room right now. Again, Stacy telling me how my website's broken. No pats on the back or on the head about what a good job. Nothing but complaints. But I'm tough. I can take it.
Yeah, and they all seem to have a bunch of caffeine. They all seem kind of a little perky this morning. I don't know, a little bouncy. Yeah. All right, and that's maybe that's back to they're just excited to be here. I don't know. But I guess we should jump into topics, huh?
Yeah, the stuff everybody came for. So you had one to start out with, a very important one for those of us, especially those of us that have children. This is a big deal.
Yes, yeah. I want to make sure that you all know that, while Todd and I went to great lengths of effort to make sure this show stays at the same price point, which is free, because it turns out people are barely willing to pay that much for the show. Our dear friends at Disney kept up with their annual February tradition, and they raised park prices by $5 again, and the internet is beside itself. They cannot believe that those people would just exploit them in such ways and charge them $5 a month for a single day pass, which is up during peak season to $129 a day per person. Oh my God, it blows me away.
Yeah. Disney is expensive. I have made that trek before. I've not been there, so I've not even been there since they added the new bands and all that. So it's been a long time since I've been there. But I don't know. I think that falls under the whole first world problems thing. Yeah, it's a problem, but If that's the stuff that's bothering you, you got it pretty good. You got a good.
I'm with you. Well, and so speaking of first world problems, right? You and I have talked about this for years. We know that you and I have our suspicions that those Facebook people, they've got our fancy, expensive phones tracking us within an inch of our life, recording our conversations, all of that type of stuff. And it came out this week that someone wanted to leak some information to a reporter, and he said, hey, before I'll meet you to tell you any of this, you have to make sure your phone is completely shut off. Turns out that inside of Facebook, the Facebook employees are so concerned with the level of tracking that's happening on their phones and how they're now correlating that with hey, you were in the same bar as a reporter for 3 hours. What were you doing there, right? They're apparently getting interrogated in those ways. So it's hey, if you want to meet me, you need to, turn your phone off, leave it in the car in a lead box, right? I can't be having you and your phone coming near me because they will know that we talked. Very, very weird.
Yeah, well, and I think, so there's kind of two aspects of this. You and I have talked about this, man, years ago, about how, I think it was you got a person you might know thing from a parent of one of your soccer kids. And it was one of those things where Facebook was watching you both and noticed you went to the same places a lot and said, hey, you might know this guy. So we've known that is the case. And I'm not even saying whether it's good or bad. I mean, we know that functionality is there. But I think another thing that you and I have talked about a bunch that we have not had any official confirmation on, but I'm convinced is happening, is that the Facebook app listens to you when you don't have it on. And there have been so many examples that I have had, not even with the rest of the internet conspiracy folks backing me up, examples of times when I have been discussing something and then all of a sudden there are ads for that something in the Facebook app on my phone. And it happened 2 weeks ago. I mean, it happened. So we moved to this house here a couple of years ago, and in our old house, we had one of the tankless water heaters. So you could have a bunch of water, whatever. So now we've got more people taking longer showers and all that kind of stuff. We're running out of hot water in the mornings. And so my wife and I had somebody over to give us a quote for a new tankless water heater for the basement. And so the plumbing guys here were walking around talking about I got my phone on me. We're talking about where the venting for the water heater is going to go and everything, water heater. He's getting ready to leave, and he's like, well, let me give him my stuff. I pull my phone up, and I'm on the Facebook app from when he was gone, before when he got here. It refreshes when I pop my phone up, and there's an advertisement on Facebook for water heaters. And I'm like, the dude hadn't even left yet. I'm like, oh, my God.
Come on, Facebook, at least pretend.
You're not even trying. And so, yeah, I'm convinced that they're doing that. No, here's the thing. I don't necessarily think either of these things are bad. And I say that because, so there's that old adage, if you're not paying for a product, you're not the customer.
You're the product.
Right. And so Facebook, they got to pay people. They got to sell ads. So that's the case. So if I go into this knowing that I have to see some amount of advertising, I guess I want it to be advertising for stuff that I care about. I mean, that's good for them. That's going to click more, but it's good for me. If I have to look at ads, I want it to be for stuff that I care about. And I have absolutely had the whole people you might know thing shoot up people that I do know that I'm like, oh my God, I haven't talked to that guy in 20 years. And we've connected on Facebook. And there's a whole bunch of different ways that happens. It's not just, proximity. So I guess those things aren't necessarily bad, but there are a couple of downsides. I don't think they're transparent about it, which makes me a little nervous. And Mark in the chat room mentioned up another one is having all that stuff running all the time just kills your battery. The Facebook app just destroys batteries on phones because of all that. It's always looking at your location. It's always listening to you, always talking to the mothership.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you, right? Because I do more so than you, right? Because you've gone to a little more effort than I have, but I believe that ads are good, right? Ads are they're part of the deal. And so, yeah, if you're going to show me ads, I want ads that are relevant. So let's do it that way.
I'm having a Gordon Gekko. Greed, for the most part, is good. So I'm getting ads, for the most part, are good.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's, and it's the same with, doing the YouTube stuff, right? The YouTube channel it's very ad driven. One day, maybe this podcast will be popular enough, we can make it ad driven, but it's, as you said, if you're not paying for it, somebody's
you're not
got
the customer.
To. Yeah. Unfortunately, this podcast is being paid for by you and I, so I don't know what that really says, but I don't know. I'm pro ads. I don't have an ad blocker on my machine. I don't have an ad blocker on my network. I let them go. It's part of it.
Yeah, so and that's funny you should talk about that. A couple of things. I do have an ad blocker on my network, but honestly, it's not because I don't want to see ads. It's because the way the ad industry works now, it is killing browsers and killing performance, and there are security issues. So I did not have an ad blocker on my network until a year or so ago because those security issues weren't a big thing until a year or so ago, and the performance wasn't so bad until a year or so ago. So I'm not against advertising. I don't mind that at all. Second thing is you bring up another point about this show being ad driven and all that. I've not really considered it much. I think there probably will be some stuff coming, and we'll talk about this a little later. But I have considered, and you and I haven't talked about it much, setting up a Patreon page for this. Yep. And so that gives people the ability to voluntarily pay. The show itself would still continue to be free and would have the same number of ads, whether or not. But part of the Patreon thing is, we ask people for money or give people the option for sending us money. But then in return, we have to give them a pound of flesh. We have to give them something. There has to be benefits for Patreon folks. And I don't know what that would be. So I guess what I'm asking for now is if you are a listener or a viewer, if we were to do a Patreon type site for this, what would you want the Patreon benefits to be? Give us some ideas on that.
Photos of Todd and I, in heart-shaped frames.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against all that. But I mean, some of the podcasts that I listen to are starting to move that direction. Again, I'm with you. I don't think ads are bad. I don't think content producers getting paid is bad. I think Patreon's a good thing. I just don't know how to add that to what we're doing. So looking for advice.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I have also not figured out crack the Patreon nut, right? That's, but people are more accepting of it. And, it's the same with, I think overall people are more accepting of ads on their YouTube streams and things like that. So it's been interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the reality of it's starting to come through.
So speaking of ads, one of the things in the world that is completely paid for by ads is YouTube.
Yes.
And so we've, in our cord cutting episode, Todd and I alluded to YouTube TV was coming. It was kind of fresh. Neither of us had messed with it. I'm still not ready to mess with it. But I did see an article today, thanks to old Brad Sams on Twitter, on Engadget that said that it looks like YouTube TV is going to add some more channels, pretty solid channels. TBS, TNT, Cartoon Network, CNN.
Yep.
But when they
my goodness,
this channel, they're going to raise the price $5 a month. The world is on fire.
Goodness sake. I hope the internet outrage is in full swing.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is in the interview, they addressed that like, hey, $5 price hike is coming. But if you sign up before March 13th, you can lock in at the current price and not have to mess with that $5 upgrade. And I'm like, man, I get it, right? And I'm okay with them adding and all that. But at the same time, I'm like, that's the same exact talk that those cable providers that we all hate so much have been using. And so, I think we kind of alluded to it before, but it's going to happen, right? We're going to end up going full circle. We're all going to get off of cable. We're all going to end up on streaming TV services, and we're all going to be locked in there. And next thing you know, we're going to be paying $200 a month for that. Someone else on Twitter pointed out the whole backwardsness of it all, that, we're now using the cable piping that was meant to bring cable television to our house to bring internet connections to provide us TV. And it's kind of like this full circle. Nothing's being used for the thing it was built for. It's a tough topic. I don't know. Anyway, what's your thoughts on YouTube TV?
Well, so I think, we talked about this a little bit before the show. The current state of cord cutting, so YouTube TV, PlayStation View, Hulu, whatever, is giving us the thing that we thought we always wanted. So there's that old adage, watch out what you ask for, you just might get it. Yep. And now that's what we were, I don't know how many times over the years I've said it and I've heard people say it. I hate that I spend, $100 a month on DirecTV for 600 channels when I only watch 20. I wish I could only pay for the channels that I watch. That is everybody's complaint. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of reasons why that was set up the way that it was. That system's starting to break down. And so we've got things like YouTube TV saying, okay, we're going to, your $35 a month gets you these packages. If you want these other 5 channels, it's going to cost you. And if you don't want them, you don't have to pay for it. We're giving you what you want. And then there's the immediate backlash. YouTube TV is nickel and diming us. I can't believe they're doing this. I can't believe I have to pay for this. But that's the thing that we've been saying we want the whole time. So for any company that sells anything to anybody anywhere, finding that happy spot between giving everybody everything that they want and charging everybody the same amount and then making it a la carte, finding that spot in the middle is almost impossible. So I am sympathetic to that. But so I use PlayStation View and have for the last year or so, and I'm a success story here. So Game of Thrones got finished here a couple of months ago. The next day I called and canceled HBO. And haven't had it since. And then Homeland started on Sunday. So Sunday night after Homeland had started, we're like, oh my God, Homeland comes back. We saw it in the news or something. Went into Amazon Prime, added Showtime for $9 a month, and just went right in and started watching Homeland. That's exactly the way I want my system to work. That is that is the best case scenario. So I think we're in good shape there. I like where it's at.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. How well will that work out for HBO and Showtime? Right, because if you think about HBO, so I used to pay $18 a month for HBO every month. And I watched it for 10 weeks, 8 weeks, however long Game of Thrones was. But I kept it all year. So now, just like you, right? I currently have HBO off. Mm-hmm. Whenever they release the next Game of Thrones, I will turn HBO back on. I will watch it. I'll be very happy, and I'll turn it back off. Can HBO survive in that model in the long run?
Well, I think they're hoping to do the whole making it up in volume. And it's that whole Laffer curve with taxes. If you tax nothing, if taxes were zero, the government would get $0. If taxes were 100% of income, the government would get $0. But somewhere in the middle is that happy point, that Laffer curve. And I think that's what HBO is trying to figure out. If they lower the price enough, then do 10 times more people sign up for HBO, even if it's only 3 months at a time. So they've got accountants, looking at all that and trying to figure that out. So I like where it's at. It's like everything else, time marches on, so everything's going to keep changing. Yep. View's making some changes, and I'm mostly happy with things the way they are.
Yeah, well, I think what HBO will probably end up having to do, right, is it'll have to switch to a model where if you pay per month, right, it's $30 a month. If you sign up, if you buy for the year, it's $10 a month, right? They're going to have to switch at some point, I think, to that type of model, or be more deliberate about it. Be like, all right, we will just straight up sell you a Game of Thrones subscription, right? Watching Game of Thrones is going to cost you $50. Give us $50. You got access to Game of Thrones season 9 because we know that's all you want to watch. I think that's the type of stuff that they're either going to have to come to, or at least try to, like you said, find that proper price point where they figure out the maximum people will pay and do it. So,
yeah, and I think so. In the chat room, Fausto's talking about HBO, and so another thing that is new to HBO is you can obviously buy HBO through whatever provider you have. So when you had Time Warner, when I had DirecTV, whatever, and it's like $15 a month or whatever. But now you can buy it separately a la carte. So you can have Time Warner, where HBO costs you $15 a month, or you can just go to, I think it's, and I can't remember which service it is if it's HBO Now or HBO Go, but you can just buy it and then watch it through their app for $10 a month or whatever.
Yeah.
Stacy brought up another interesting point that maybe they're hoping people pay for it and forget it and don't shut it off. Yeah, absolutely. And I think probably Shane and I calling the morning after Game of Thrones ended, we're probably a little bit ahead of the curve on that. I don't think, and obviously the way they staggered things, I think like Ballers started a couple of weeks before Game of Thrones got over. So they're hoping people will start watching Ballers and then keep going. And if you're not watching Ballers, you're really missing out, by the way. So yeah, there's just a lot of things going on. But I like where it is. I think it's way better than it was 10 years ago, way better than it was 30 years ago. So I'm in favor.
Yeah, no, I think the system's moving in the right direction. This is kind of, now I'm just going to completely off on a tangent, right? But this is a whole like retail apocalypse, right? All of these retail stores are going away because they can't keep up with Amazon. But people are like, but man, I really enjoy going into the retail store to be able to touch it. Well, the thing I always remind them is like, if that's what you want to do, if you want to go into Best Buy and click all these mice to find the one you want, That's great. While you're in Best Buy, when you find the one you want, don't open your Amazon app and be like, all right, now I'm going to order it from Amazon. You got to buy it there at Best Buy, or Best Buy's not going to be there for you to click all the mice the next time. And I think that's where people just, they like you said, they get what they ask for, right? They want the cheapest price possible. Well, that's Amazon. Oh, but it turns out they want to be able to touch the products. If you want to touch them, you gotta support the places that let you touch them. I'm not saying buy everything from Best Buy, but if I go looking for a mouse and I do it in Best Buy and find the one I want, by golly, I'm gonna buy it at Best Buy instead of checking Amazon.
Yeah, and I'm certainly guilty of that, and I've had this discussion, and it's funny the sense of entitlement that this brings out in people, because people will do that thing. They'll be like, oh, I was at Best Buy, and I saw this mouse that I wanted, and it was great, and it was $18, and I looked at Amazon, and it was $10. I can't believe Best Buy's selling it for $18, blah, 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 overpriced. Well, here's the thing. Best Buy is not only offering you the mouse, they're also providing you the service of the mouse being right there.
Yep.
Like that extra $8 means you get the mouse 2 days ahead of time or a week ahead of time or whatever, and you can start using it immediately. And so I think people don't understand all of that. They expect if they can find it cheaper someplace, anywhere should have it. So I think setting people's expectations is important. But I also think that the retail folks are starting to figure out that they can't keep relying on that. So a bunch of places like Target and Walmart are starting to use their stores as warehouses for their online stuff. And so trying to figure out the best combination of those two worlds, and I think that's great. And Best Buy does those kind of things too. So I think they're starting to figure it out. I have hope.
They are, yeah. My feedback is more to the consumers who whine about when their favorite stores go away because, well, you never spent any money in there. So what did you think was going to happen?
Yep, that's yeah. And so in the Best Buy one, it's funny because I had a buddy of mine complaining, 10 years ago about how expensive HDMI cables were. She's like, I can't believe, Best Buy sells an HDMI cable for $100. I'm like, well, then don't buy it. Well, I need an HDMI cable and I don't want to wait. Well, that's why it's $100. You're paying for the option of having it right now. That's the value.
Yeah. And that's a tough one, right? Because Best Buy really kind of did that to themselves. Because they should have been selling that cable for, $25, not $100. And they probably could have avoided a lot of this, driving their consumers away. I mean, I get it, right? You had a customer who had to have the cable right that moment. So they were exploiting people. So in that case, I feel, Best Buy did it to themselves. And those
they did. And I think they learned the lesson. I think they got paddled on it and it cost them because, I agree. So interesting stuff. The cord cutting episode got a lot of attention. So I think we're going to probably keep hitting that topic. Like we have been. So by all means, if people are thinking about, doing that, give us things to talk about on that. If you're looking to jump or whatever, it's something near and dear to. I got a new Roku. Shane talked about this a couple weeks ago. I got a new refurbed Roku Premier Plus that's going to replace a Roku stick that I've got. So we like that topic.
Yep. So speaking of shows, our good friends, Jason and John, they do a show called BI Focal Show, right? And those guys are up to 32 episodes now, and they really just cover, BI in our space, right? SharePoint, Office 365, so Power BI, Power Apps, what's that other one that you hate so much? Power
Pivot.
Power Pivot.
And I think they pronounce it bifocal, like the glasses, not bifocal.
Well, I want to call it what I want to call it. So,
but yes, on to Jason and John, good friends of ours. We kid.
Yeah. So yeah, and I tweeted this morning. I had a Power Apps licensing question, and so Jason called me and chewed me out like, "Hey, dummy, why don't you just call me and ask me?" I was like, "Well, I was trying to be social." But so they've got a great podcast on that, episode 10. So if you're trying to understand the Power Apps licensing, I thought that was a good one. Their number one fan, Teresa Eller, made sure that I knew about it. She was like all over my stuff too. Like, what do you mean you don't know? I'm like, my bad. So anyway, great show. Check it out if you have any BI needs.
Yeah. And that's one thing. And I think my approach to this is probably wrong, but I haven't figured out how to fix it yet, is I listen to a ton of podcasts. My podcast app is brimming full of podcasts. I don't listen to any tech podcasts, or at least not tech podcasts that are specific to what I podcast about, because I am deathly afraid of stealing somebody's content. I am deathly afraid of hearing something on a podcast that you all listen to, and then we talk about it the next week. We're like, hey, did you hear about this thing? And you're like, those guys stole that from AC and CJ. I can't believe. And, so I don't listen to Bifocal much. I don't listen to AC and CJ very often because I'm just deathly afraid of stealing their content accidentally.
And I want to rename it Bifocal. It's been renamed. It has been passed. Dilly dilly. Move on. Real quick. Todd loves it when I'm going to jack. You know what? Anyway, a couple of videos. So I put one out this week. Run your PowerShell as a scheduled task. So someone had tweeted me, right? This is where Todd and I are always asking you guys for feedback. Someone tweeted me and said, hey, I need to take this PowerShell that you've shown me how to write and run it as a Windows scheduled task. So it runs at 8 a.m. every day while I'm playing golf. And I'm like, boom, that's a great topic for video. 9 minutes of recording later, this guy had his topic covered. So just a reminder to put that stuff out there because that's where we get the ideas to make stuff.
Yeah, and that's a particular one. So I use that one myself. Well, not that one, because I had my own way of doing this. But so I moved my web server, and I'm hosting it at home now. And my cable modem IP address doesn't change often. But if it does change, well, then all my web stuff quits working immediately.
Funny how that works.
It's a really bad thing. And so not a big deal, because if I'm here, I'm like, oh, okay, I can go get my IP address and fix it. But what if I'm traveling? I'm traveling tomorrow, and that happens. There's no way for me to fix it. And so I went down this rabbit hole of all of my DNS right now is being hosted at GoDaddy, because that's where I bought my stuff. So I'm like, I need a way. So went out to the internet. There's a way to update DNS records at GoDaddy with PowerShell. Woohoo. Sweet. So it took me about 2 minutes to figure that out. I already had a website that I go to get my external IP address. A buddy that I worked with at Rackspace, Major Hayden, has a website called icanhasip.com, and it's super easy. So, and now with PowerShell invoke web request, HTTPS, icanhasip.com, content, poof, that's my IP address. And so I've got now this PowerShell script that goes out, gets my IP address, doesn't do a DNS lookup on it, goes out and compares it to the DNS record that GoDaddy has instead. So that way, if I end up changing the name server on that machine, it doesn't end up tricking itself and getting confused. And then if those two values are different, it updates GoDaddy with the new address. And then I have that as a scheduled task running once an hour. So once an hour, my machine wakes up, checks its own external IP address, checks to see what GoDaddy thinks it is, and then updates it. And so that's another one, great scheduled tasks, all that kind of stuff. Very handy stuff.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool use case scenario right there. I like it.
I'm a pretty smart guy. I keep telling you, I'm not just a pretty face.
I'm still waiting on the pretty face part to happen. So
I might do a blog post on the GoDaddy thing, because that was something that I didn't know. Like I've wanted to do this for a long time, but just had never thought about it. But it's really simple, way simpler than I thought it would be to create DNS records with GoDaddy. Yep.
So now, great example of a video. The other video I popped out last week, a little more dear to Dan's heart, is I did one on working with Power Apps Collections. So collections are a special type of Power Apps variable. They hate it when you make it unplural. So you can, you collect a bunch of data. So people have used it to build shopping carts, gather a whole bunch of feedback or pictures from a user, let them select which ones they want, edit the collection, then email that out, that type of stuff. So collections are a pretty cool functionality inside of Power Apps. It's a little different though, so I kind of made it its own video to try and make the world a better place. Hopefully I didn't do too bad of a job. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So so one other thing I want to talk about before we move to a new section of the podcast.
We're almost out of time, so do it fast.
Oh goodness. Yes. So on Facebook today, I'm Facebook friends with a bunch of SharePoint folks. One of the people was asking about, they've got a potential customer, the farm's all dinked up, and they weren't sure how to figure out what was dinked up and provide the customer with a report of the dinked upness. And so they were asking for things like PowerShell scripts and all that. So there's a big discussion going on about the things they should check, but it reminded me of a tool that I've used in the past and I'm a big fan of, and that's SP.kit. So the company now has changed its name, and Acceleratio, I think, or maybe SP.Kit. I can't remember how that's changed, but SP.Kit is a tool that you install on a SharePoint server, and it runs this exhaustive report on SharePoint, gives you all kinds of metrics on, how big your SharePoint is and all that, but also does a bunch of diagnostics on how things are configured. It also has a list of best practice things and tells you which of those things you're not doing and why that's important, and link to knowledge base articles and things like that. It was pretty much exactly what this person wanted. And it prints and it makes the report, and then you can give it templates and it'll spit it out as a professional looking PDF file or a Word doc or whatever. And so I really love that product, and I think it's great for the first stage of that. And it's funny, that story, because he was asking, okay, so are there any PowerShell scripts and all that are out there? So when SharePoint 2010 first came out and we had to do PowerShell for it, I wrote a PowerShell script that does a bunch of those things. And then SP.Kit came out, and I knew the guy that founded the company, Tony Frankola, friend of mine, SharePoint MVP from Croatia. And he came out with this thing. And I'm like, man, I don't need to buy that product. I've got PowerShell. I can do all these things in PowerShell. I can interrogate all these things. I can get SP site, and I can spit it all out to HTML. I can do all that kind of stuff. And I spent hours and hours fighting with it. And then I used SP.Kit once, and I'm like, oh my God, why have I been wasting all of my time writing this in PowerShell when this just works? Oh my God. And so I haven't done much of that stuff lately. So if you've got a SharePoint farm and you want to just keep an eye on it. So one of the great things about this is you can use snapshots. You can make these reports like once a month and see how your SharePoint's growing. So I talked earlier in the podcast about how we might do some advertising. I might do some advertising for these guys because it's a really great product and they're a good company. And it is just the answer to so many people's problems. So I might talk to them a little bit.
I feel like you just did some advertising for them. So
I probably.
It's Valentine's Day, though. We're being happy and loving.
Showing them some love, yeah.
Yeah, and so speaking of Valentine's Day, Todd and his giant, oversized heart that just explodes with happiness and kindness, he came up with a new segment for the show. And this is very exciting, so I just want to kind of give you the big drum roll, get it in there. And so Todd has invented the Community Corner. And Todd, tell us about the Community Corner.
I feel like there should be like some intro music or something, like a little cutaway thing. So I've talked about this several times over the last couple of months that, if you've got a SharePoint user group or SharePoint Saturday or something, and you need people, speakers, attendees, whatever, to let us know. And we're happy to give some help out to those people. I don't get to go to as many SharePoint Saturdays as I would like to, or that I used to, because of kids and all that kind of stuff. But I do want to help out. And so I just saw a bunch of things coming through, and I'm like, I should just give these things a shout out on the podcast. So that's kind of what I'm going to do here. The Community Corner stuff is just, SharePoint Saturday events that I see or that people bring to me, people that need speakers, whatever, I'm going to give them a shout out. The first one, and these are in order of when they're going to happen, not in order of favorites, or else Daniel Glenn would not be first on the list. But Daniel Glenn, he's in Nashville. And they're having a back-to-back event. I think I really like this. They're having a Cloud Friday in Nashville, and that is May 4th. And that's going to be cloudy things, as you can imagine, not just SharePoint. And then on May 5th, on Saturday, they're having a SharePoint Saturday Nashville. And so I like how they're doing that, the cloud stuff and the SharePoint stuff. And I don't know if they've got a call for speakers out now or anything, but you can go to those two websites, cloudfridaynashville.org. and then spsevents.org, and they've got all those on there. And of course, all these links for everything we've talked about will be in the show notes at toddclint.com/podcast376, or if you're, watching the YouTube video, there's stuff below. So if you're in that area, go check those two events out. If you've got something to talk about, for goodness sakes, do it. Everybody knows something that people want to hear. So SharePoint Saturday events are a great time for that. The next one is SharePoint Saturday Montreal, and they've got a call for speakers out right now. That event is June 2nd, Saturday, June 2nd. I thought about doing this one because I've not been to Montreal, but I got something going on that day, so I can't go.
Aww.
Yeah. But that's out there. And that's got a long URL that I'm not going to try to pronounce. And then finally, I should have put this one earlier. In April, the SharePoint Saturday Omaha. I know this is the premier event. Everybody wants to come to Omaha.
Where's Omaha again?
Exactly. It's right by Iowa. It's right next door to Iowa. You've heard the whole Bob Seger song, Turn the Page. It's right next to Iowa. But they're having a SharePoint Saturday event. And not only am I going,
Ooh.
I'm doing the keynote.
Ooh.
So that event is Saturday, and I don't have it in the notes, and I think it's Saturday, April 7th in Omaha, Nebraska, right across the border from Iowa. And David Peterson's putting that one together. Very excited about that. I spoke at their user group here a couple of weeks ago, and apparently didn't embarrass myself too badly because they asked me to come back for SharePoint Saturday. So I will be there, and I'll be doing the keynote, and then I'll be doing whatever else I can help, while I'm there, passing out sodas or, getting lunch or whatever. So if you're going to be in the area, shoot by and say howdy.
Is there any truth to the rumor that Warren Buffett will be there, right? Because he's the Oracle of Omaha.
I can't confirm or deny that my people and his people have been in discussions about that. Right, but he is the Oracle of Omaha.
And then now there's a rumor on the internet that he's going to be there. So I would sign up just for the off chance that rumor's true.
It can't hurt. It can't decrease your chances of meeting Warren Buffett. That's
all right. So I think now that you've done promotions for other people, which somehow segued into promotions for you.
Did you see that? Yeah.
Maybe you should just continue telling the world how great Todd Clint is with your shameless promotions.
Yeah. So not only all that going on, but the SharePoint Conference 2018 is May 21st through 23rd in Las Vegas. Not only will I be there, but also apparently they're letting Shane be there as well. And so that you can go to SharePointConference.com, SharePointNA.com. I forget, there's a bunch of URLs that all go to one spot. So we're going to be doing sessions. I forget, we're doing an admin session and
a migration session.
And then, as if you haven't already gotten your fill of Shane and Todd, we're going to be doing an all-day event on Thursday, an administrator workshop. So it's going to be, we get an hour to talk about administration on Monday or Tuesday. We're going to have 8 hours to talk about everything. And we're talking on-prem administration, cloud, hybrid, just all the things. If you're going to be a SharePoint or Office 365 administrator, that's all. It's all going to be in there, and that's great. And also, this just in yesterday. Not only are we going to be there doing sessions, and not only are we're also going to be doing the podcast live from the exhibit floor at the SharePoint conference.
Mic dropped. That's over.
I was very excited to be able to do that. So that we can't do it at exactly the same time because it's Pacific time and this is 8 o'clock in the morning and they want to do it when the exhibit hall's open and all that. So I think it's going to be Wednesday afternoon at 5 p.m. Pacific, so 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll record it, so it'll end up showing up in the stream. But that will be on the exhibit floor, and so you'll be able to come and by and hang out. So if you're going to be at the SharePoint conference, just go ahead and block that out, and come join us for the. And so they have a bunch of sessions. They're going to have like a podcasting booth there. And when I was talking to Jason about that, we picked this time, and I'm like, and also know that Shane and I will take any other times that don't end up getting filled. I see a lot of open spots on that spreadsheet, Jason. Just go ahead and put us down for all of them.
Yep.
He will likely not do that, but so I'm very excited about that. We did that at Ignite, and that was a blast. Love doing that. So, and all of your favorite podcasters are going to be there. The bifocal folks or BI or whoever they are now, they're going to be doing one live. Andrew Connell and Chris Johnson are going to be doing theirs, and they're doing like a daily show. So they're going to be there every day for an hour. So work that into your schedule. Find time for that.
Why aren't we doing a daily show?
That was my question for Jason as well. So it's funny. So I'm talking to Jason Himmelstein, good friend of ours, and he's like, hey, we're doing this podcasting thing. He's like, and I wanted to get you guys in there. And, so I want to talk to you guys first. He's like, I want to talk to people in the order that we love them. And he brings up the spreadsheet. There's already a bunch of things in there. I'm like, well, I'm glad to see that you love us a little less than AC and CJ and a little less than you and John. Glad to see the hierarchy. But the reason he did that was because they wanted the same slot, every day. But I'm like, Shane and I would absolutely do an hour show. And also we're going to see if we can get some guests with blue badges, perhaps, and talk to them a little bit. So very excited about all this. Super, super cool stuff.
I'm with you. All right. We are way over. We're not way over, but we're over. SP TechCon in Boston. Don't forget about that. That is right behind it. It's a much smaller, much more intimate conference. That is August 26th through 29th. Todd and I will certainly, most likely, probably be there. We just haven't submitted anything because, well, quite frankly, we are slackers.
Yes.
That's really the only reason that we don't have stuff on that schedule. So SP TechCon Boston,
Yeah.
Todd and I have been going to those for probably 10 years now, and great
Yeah.
shows. So check that out.
Yep.
And there is, then Dan posted when Todd was doing the community corner, he had somehow forgotten that Charlotte, North Carolina is having a SharePoint Saturday, August 11th. Todd probably forgot because Dan did not actually say, here, Todd, add this to your OneNote, but, whatever.
I don't know if you can forget something that you never knew. I think that, but yes, happy to talk about that. And if you got a link, Dan, throw it in the chat room. I'll throw it in the notes. So it's August 11th, Charlotte, North Carolina, SharePoint Saturday. Go there. I've never been to North Carolina. I've never been to either of the Carolinas.
Oh, I've been to both extensively. Aren't I cool? I was realizing when you were talking about Montreal, though, that my passport's expired, so don't judge me.
Oh, we'll judge you for completely different reasons. I think that's everything. So chat room will stick around for a little bit. Thanks to everybody. Again, you can find all this, toddclint.com/podcast, YouTube, all those places, and we'll see you next week.
Toodaloos.
See ya.